is a woman whose story is as powerful as it is inspiring. Bonita, my dear friend, is a force of nature. She works 3 jobs and actively helps others see a different perspective when it comes to life and recovery. She brings both lived experience and professional insight to the table. Bonita is also a proud mother and very young grandmother. And this year she celebrates 10 years of sobriety. In this episode, we'll talk to her about her personal journey through addiction and recovery, what 12-step recovery really offers beyond the cliches, and how to support a loved one who may be struggling with alcohol. Whether you're wondering about your own drinking or worried about somebody that you care about, this conversation will offer clarity, compassion, and hope. Thank you, Bonita. Welcome.
Thanks, Belle. It's lovely to be here.
I'm so happy that you're on this episode today. I think this is a really important topic. It sometimes can go under the radar.
Oh, absolutely.
And you can worry about people and loved ones, but it's always difficult to know what to say or whether to say something. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing your insights. You have lived it. I've watched you live it.
Yeah.
It's an amazing journey that I've watched you on. So, first of all, can you tell us a little about your journey and what it looked like in your life before you entered recovery?
Sure. So I grew up in a very normal home. Got 4 younger brothers. I grew up on property with my grandparents and mum and dad as well. And, it was loving, amazing home. There was no trauma or any of that. So it was, it was a good, I really enjoyed, like my family are very close and it was great. So I went through school and
So can we say happy childhood?
happy childhood.
Beautiful.
Absolutely. Happy childhood. Went through school and did schooling, left school probably I think in year 11, then went straight out into the workforce, and was working full time.
So you were 17 then,
Yep.
and you were working full time. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then, and life was good. So, worked full time, had lots of friends, did lots of partying. Was always a big drinker. Looking back now, I'm like, ooh, I always thought everybody drunk like me. Now, with hindsight, I can see very clearly that I've always drunk a little bit different to other people.
So life before sobriety was work and it was drinking. What else was it? Was it family, your family?
Yeah, it was family. And then, I met the father of my children. I think I was 27 when my first child was born. And then I had another baby 11 months later. And then 4 years later, I had another one. So I've got 3 kids. I also have a stepdaughter who I'm very blessed that, she chooses me to be her mum, which is lovely. So it was always lots of family, lots of kids. I had lots of, friends with little kids and
parties. Did you have parties?
Yeah, I had parties all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And drinking wasn't always a big issue for me. Like I think I drank normally for quite a few years. It always did what I wanted it to do.
So normally is
for me, it was like, okay, so I would be feeling really stressed or whatever and I could have a drink and I could relax.
So it was a antidepressant in some way because you were stressed or some kind of anxiety pill?
Well, look, I think for most of it, it was just like, it would just change my perception of reality.
Yeah.
I was feeling a bit stressed. I could have 1 or 2 drinks and it'd feel a bit more relaxed.
Yep.
If I was going out or having people over, I'd have a couple of drinks and it'd be social.
Mm-hmm.
But then what happened is that slowly started to change, and it got to a point where what was happening is that the desired effect that I wanted, You know, that feeling of just being, after I've had a drink, it stopped working for me. The alcohol stopped doing that. You know, maybe that first drink would do it. But then once I had one, I started to find that I couldn't stop. Once I had one, you know, I just wanted to keep drinking. And probably the last 4 years of my drinking was pretty bad, you know.
And at that point, you had a little one, a little bit older one, and a little bit older one. So is it safe to say they were all under 10 at this point?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then your gorgeous stepdaughter was just a little bit older than that again.
Yeah, yeah. So by the end of my drinking, I was pretty much a daily blackout drinker. And what would happen is that I would wake up in the morning and think, like, panic, think, where are my kids? Because I couldn't remember what had happened the night before. So I'd have to jump out of bed, lay eyes on them, think, oh God, okay, they're all right, they're in bed. And then I'd go and look for evidence that I'd fed them.
Oh, I've got goosebumps. So you would physically look around for evidence,
Yeah, what had happened the
that
night
you'd
before.
taken care of the kids and, yeah, what was going on.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is I just couldn't understand what the hell was going on. Like, I'm not stupid. I've never been a stupid woman. I've always been very smart and intelligent, but for some reason, I just couldn't stop drinking. Like, it was kind of like, once I started, I couldn't stop. But then if I wasn't drinking, I was thinking about drinking. So, my kids didn't do any after school sports or anything like that because I wanted to be home to be able to have a drink. And it was just, and I wasn't very present with the kids. It wasn't always that blackout drinking daily, but definitely the last bit of my drinking was like that. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of like once I had one, all bets were off. I
Yeah.
couldn't control I couldn't control how much I was going to drink. All right, I couldn't guarantee my behaviour. Some nights I was okay, but some nights I wasn't. And there was a lot of things that happened where I put my kids in danger, I put myself in danger. I'm very, very lucky to be, not lose everything. A lot of people lose everything and lose their kids and partners and all of that. That didn't happen to me, but I was very close.
Was there a moment that you can tell me that made you realize that something had to change, and that alcohol had become a real problem?
Yeah, absolutely. So my last drink. Like, I kind of knew before that. I knew that I couldn't stop drinking. I knew what an alcoholic looked like. I have that in my family. I could see what a functioning alcoholic looked like. But the one thing is that no one in my family or my friends, no one ever pulled me up about my drinking. No one. No one actually ever said to me, Bonita, you're drinking too much, or Bonita, what are you doing getting in the car driving with your kids? No one ever said that to me. Which is okay. Like, it's the journey it's meant to be. But I remember my last drink, I went next door to have a drink with one of my friends through the paddock, one wine, and when I came home, I can't remember coming home. What I do remember is that next morning, my 9-year-old daughter saying to me, Mum, where were you? We needed you and you weren't here. Now, worse nights had happened, but that was it for me. I just got sick and tired of being sick and tired. I just was waking up every morning thinking, what the hell is wrong with me? What I couldn't figure out. I knew there was something not quite right. Like, I felt that my whole life. Like, I felt like a round peg in a square hole my whole life. Like, it's kind of like I've been out of sync with the world and with people around me, my family. Always, I have felt very, very alone, even when surrounded by people. And I've always surrounded by people. I've got amazing friends and I've got amazing family, but I've always felt alone and not quite right. And I just remember that next morning I was just done. I was just so sick and tired of being sick and tired. And yeah.
So bottom of the rock bottom. You hit
So
rock
that was
bottom.
my rock bottom. You know, everybody has their own rock bottom. That was my rock bottom. That I was done, you know. And then what happened is that I white knuckled for 2 months. I managed not to drink for 2 months.
So white knuckled means no support.
No support.
Just cold turkey.
Cold turkey. Pretty much locked in my house. I would take the kids to school, but I would go an extra like 20 minutes, so I didn't have to go past any bottle-os. I just stayed away from everybody.
What did you do with the alcohol that you had at home?
Put it in the outdoor fridge because my partner at the time was still drinking. I put him in the outdoor fridge. Like, he was happy that I'd stopped drinking, but he was still drinking. So I got it all out of the house and I slept. Like, there was nothing. I just slept.
Your body needed. You
Oh,
needed some sleep.
It's a detox, you know. I had to go through that physical detox. And I, you know, like, I never had the luxury of going to a rehab. And I know it's not really a luxury, but, you know, I couldn't do that. I had little kids. I couldn't just take myself away from my life.
A lot of people don't have the luxury.
No, they don't. They don't,
No.
you know. And so I kind of just did it on my own and just slept and slept and slept, basically. But then after 2 months, like, I was going insane, Belinda. Like, I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. I was worse. My head was just, it was so full on. I was so full of self-hatred. My head wouldn't stop, and I couldn't figure out what was going on
So
because I'd
guilt.
stopped drinking.
Yeah.
Well, I'd stopped drinking, but I'd gotten worse.
Why was everything not suddenly better?
Absolutely. I couldn't figure out, well,
Yeah.
I've taken away the alcohol, so why isn't everything better?
Yeah.
In reality, what happened is everything got worse. My anxiety levels got worse. I was scared all the time. As I said, I hated who I was. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I could barely talk to anybody. I was barely functioning, you know. And then, luckily, I knew a lady who was in recovery, so she'd always been really open about being in recovery.
Did you know her well, or did you seek her out?
I knew her well,
Yeah.
but I actually had to reach out to her.
Right.
So she was overseas at the time. I sent her a message and I said, look, I've stopped drinking, but something's not right because I feel like I'm going insane. Do you think you can help me? And the message I got back was, oh, thank God, Bonita, I've been praying to hear this from you for years. I'm currently overseas at the moment, but somebody will give you a call in the next 5 minutes. I was like, oh, okay
Who?
then.
Like, who was calling you? Just a random person or someone from a program, like a recovery support
It was
program?
someone from a recovery support program.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. So I had a phone call within 5 minutes, and then the next day I was at a recovery meeting, you know, and I was done. I was done. There was no other option for me. Like, I tried a lot of things before this. Self-help books, meditation. I tried so many different things to stop drinking and to stay stopped. Like, I could stop at certain parts, but my issue is I couldn't stay stopped.
You
I
couldn't
couldn't stay
stop
sober.
that brain continuing to think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So when my emotions got really, really big, you know, I had to have a drink to be able to deal with them. When my head got really overwhelmed, you know, I had to drink to deal with it.
And what about things like confidence? Did it give you confidence to have a drink?
It used to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it used to give me confidence. It used to relax me. It used to do all those things, but then it stopped working.
So just one thing you said a little while ago is that you had alcoholism in your family. So you have a predisposition for addiction through genetics already.
Absolutely.
So interesting that nobody picked that up in your family.
Yeah, we'll see. So alcoholism, so it's an actual disease, all right, and it is genetic. So it's on both sides of my family. My mum and dad don't have it though. However, it's I'm probably, I think there's one other person in my family who's been in recovery for a little while, but I'm the only one in my family that has come into recovery and stayed in recovery.
Well, 10 years.
10 years. Yeah, I was 10 years in February, which is...
Did they have a party for you?
No.
Yeah, come on. You guys celebrate 10 years in the program.
Yeah. I celebrated,
So you had a party, surely?
Didn't have a party.
Yeah, what did you do?
I think I went out for dinner,
Oh.
and just something nice. And I actually spent the day being really, really grateful, because, 10 years in recovery, recovery's not for the faint-hearted, which is why there's so few people in recovery.
Mm.
But you go to recovery meetings, those rooms should be packed.
Yeah.
Full.
Yeah.
But they're not, because recovery is actually hard work.
Yeah.
But what I found for me is recovery is the easier, softer way than me drinking.
So when you say recovery, you are talking about the meetings?
Yes, I'm in a 12-step recovery.
Mm-hmm. And how many times a week would you attend a meeting?
So I go to meetings at the moment 2 to 3 times a week. That varies over the years.
And is that a habit, or do you want to go? Are you thinking about it all day that you're going tonight to a meeting, for instance?
No, I go to meetings because I need to keep my head straight.
Okay.
All right. So part of my recovery is that I need to be around other people in recovery, because unless you have alcoholism, you can never understand alcoholism.
Yeah.
All right. So I can sit here and tell you what alcoholism means to me. So I can tell you that alcoholism is, you take away the alcohol and you're left with the ism. And for me, what it is, it's an internal spiritual malady. It means that somewhere in here, there was a hole in here. And in this hole, I was desperately trying to fill it. I was always that square peg in a round hole. So I was desperately trying to fill that hole, and alcohol is what filled it for me until it stopped working. So then I had to find something else to fill that. All right. And that's the recovery. That's my recovery program.
And so the people in the program, I have been to some meetings with you, and I must say, coming from somebody who is not an alcoholic, it's a really great place to be. I feel so welcomed. I feel so proud of everybody in the room. Their stories are phenomenal. And I see the welcome that you receive. And I know that you hopscotch around. You don't go to the same meetings constantly. You hopscotch so that there's a different network for you. So you would know so many people.
Yeah, I do. I do know a lot of people in recovery, and that's a really big blessing for me. As I said, I need recovery in my life. So how it works for me is, I need to do my recovery program every day.
Okay, what does that look like?
So what that looks like for me is, when I get up in the mornings, all right, I need to connect in to a power that's greater than me. So I have, through my recovery program, through my recovery, what's the biggest thing that I have got is, I've got this spiritual life now, which is huge. I have a God in my life. Now, I say God for the ease of it. All right. I actually don't understand what it is, but it is something that's bigger than me, which looks after me.
Because I don't know you to be a religious person. So when you say God, I don't think you're meaning a religious God. You're meaning a higher power.
Yeah. So my higher power is something that lives inside of me. So what I mean by that is that I've had to, in my recovery, I've had to form a relationship with something that's bigger than me. All right. Because when I'm in control of my life, all the actions I took prior to coming into recovery got me into recovery, got me to that place.
Mm-hmm.
So what I had to learn in recovery was how to take some different actions. I had to learn that, you know what, I don't get to run the show. When I feel like I need to run the show, so when I want to be in control of what is going on. So if You just do what I want you to do. And if this person does this and this person does this, well, then I will be okay inside. That doesn't work, because I don't have any control
No.
over other people, places, and things. The
No.
only control I have is how I respond to what is happening.
Yep.
So I had to kind of practice. For me, recovery is all about taking a different action and practicing over and over these different actions.
Okay, so the 12-step program, you don't have to tell me. I know that it's, well, I have seen you. I have seen you. You and I have been on holidays together, and you wake up in the morning and you read your bits.
I read my bits and I say and I turn my will and my life over to my higher power. Basically, all that means is I remind myself every day that, you know what? I'm just Bonita. I am one little person on this planet of billions of people that, and my job is just to do the next right thing.
Yep. And then you have a support network, which I just think is phenomenal. And I remember saying to you one time, I don't have that in my life. I have so many friends and I've got a great family, but I don't have somebody that calls me every day and we just chew the fat together about what I've been doing today or what I'm planning on doing today.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Oh, look, part of the recovery for me too is this. It's like, because I felt so alone always, it's a connection.
Mm.
It's a connection with people who think the same of me as me. Alcoholism is an illness of thinking. It's my thoughts, and my thoughts are often very much not real.
Mm.
It's a spiritual malady. That's this thing where I need to find something bigger than me, and it's also a physical thing as well. So my body actually processes alcohol different to the normal drinker.
Talk to me about that. How does it feel to you? Well, how did it feel to have a drink? Was there a physical? Did you feel it physically?
Oh, yeah. God, I think about it now. I can still feel it. Like, I take that first sip and my whole body just goes, oh. Like, my whole body just goes, oh, you feel it.
Where is that, a wine?
Anything.
So if I have my first sip of wine, I'm like, oh, that's tart. Really?
I feel my whole body will just go into relax mode, yeah?
Mm.
And then what happens is once I've got alcohol in my system, it sets off a craving in my body. So I actually want more.
Yeah.
So having one drink.
So you can never have one drink again.
That's right.
So has that been an issue for you? People think, oh, you've 10 years now, you're cured.
Absolutely. Yeah, and this is what I mean. Like, people who are not in recovery and don't have alcoholism, they don't understand. The fact is that I will always have alcoholism, so I always have to treat it. So it's the same as if you've got diabetes. Yes, if you've got diabetes, it's something you've got to treat with insulin on a daily basis. You're never going to get rid of diabetes. It's going to be with you for the rest of your life. It's the same with alcoholism. I'm always going to be an alcoholic, but I get to treat it on a daily basis with my actions in my recovery program.
Have you ever seen anybody who has graduated is not the right word, but left this 12-step program and remained sober?
Yeah, sure. There's
Yep.
people who can do that.
Yep.
My experience is that from hearing people who come into recovery, there's a difference between being sober and being in recovery.
Okay.
Being sober means you're not putting alcohol in your body. All right. So that's well and good if that's for people who can do that. I can't do that. I need recovery. Recovery is a journey of growth. Like, I need to grow on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
I need to grow my spiritual life. I need to be looking at my actions all the time. Am I a woman who talks the talk or walks the talk? Sorry. Recovery's given me the ability to be a woman of grace. That means that I can suit up and show up to whatever is put in front of me.
So the worst of the worst could happen to you.
Yes.
Do you feel like a drink?
Look, I had some stuff happen last year, which was pretty horrendous. There was a couple of times I felt like a drink. However, I know that that's just my head, because the reality is that I can pick up a drink anytime I want. Right? I am a human.
You're an adult.
I've got an adult. I've been given free will.
Mm-hmm.
What I do know is that I can never drink safely.
Mm-hmm.
For my safety and for everybody around me. So the fact that I can't drink safely, that's enough.
Yeah.
You know, because, I don't want anyone telling me you'll never, you're not allowed to drink, Bonita.
No.
Like that's a...
Also, I don't want people saying to you, sure, you can have one. Surely you can have one by now.
Oh, look, as I said, people don't understand.
Yeah.
I know for me that I can never have another drink again.
Mm.
I don't know what's going to happen in the future. All I know is for today, I know that I can't drink safely.
So what would you say to somebody who's listening who is wondering, let's start with they are wondering if they have a problem. What could they do?
Okay. So if you think you may have a problem with alcohol, the first thing you could do is actually just stop. If you can stop drinking and be okay and be happy and it's not going to change much in your life, then maybe you won't, maybe you don't have a problem. If you stop drinking and you find that you can't stay stopped,
Or you can't stop thinking about it?
or if you can't stop thinking about it,
Or like your mental health declined?
yeah, well then maybe that, you might be able to reach out and get some help. There's lots of places around that you can reach out and get some help and get some information. Because the thing with alcoholism is that nobody can diagnose you with it. It's a self-diagnosis.
So, Bonita, would there be a good way to approach a loved one or a family member or someone at work who you are concerned about? You think they might have a drinking problem, and I remember you said nobody ever brought it up to you. It was nobody said a word to you. Would there have been something that you would have listened to? And if so, what would that have been? And what could somebody say that will be received? I mean, I guess you're worried that it will go wrong, and you're worried that you'll be shot down because you're shooting the messenger. What do you think?
Well, look, the reality is that nobody comes into recovery until they're ready. It wouldn't have mattered what anyone had said to me, to be honest.
So if I said, hey, I think you've got a drinking problem, and I am who I am, what would that have done to you at that point?
No, I don't.
Would you? Okay. Yep. So denial.
Yep.
So that's what the issue possibly
look,
people would face.
It possibly could be. And here's the thing. If you have a family member who you are worried about their drinking, you can say to them, look, I'm worried about your drinking. All right? Now, if they say, okay, well, yeah, me too, well, then you can direct them to get some help. There's also places that for if you as a family member or a friend who is really worried about somebody's drinking, or if your partner's a big drinker and all of that, you can actually get help yourself. There's 12-step program for you.
Stop it. That's amazing. So if you are dealing with, somebody again that is making your life difficult and you're living with that, you have the support out there as well.
Yep, absolutely. There's a 12-step program out there for family members and friends of alcoholics. And it's wonderful. It's a great program.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I do have a couple of other questions for you. So when this is a fun one because I know the answer. When you go on holidays, do you take a holiday from your program?
No. No, I don't. I can't take a holiday from my program.
Yeah. So what do?
I bring it with us.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we went overseas. We had a fantastic trip together.
We did.
We went to Finland. We went to Sweden. We went to Estonia. and then you continued on your own throughout Europe. What happened?
So I took my recovery with me. You know, my recovery comes with me. So I did all my daily things. So you saw me, like
Yep.
Belinda saw me every morning doing it. And then I went to recovery meetings overseas.
And did they speak English?
No, not all of them.
But that doesn't stop you.
Doesn't stop me. You know, like the 12-step program is, you know, there's a whole heap of them and they're worldwide.
Yeah.
So I was over in Europe by myself for 2 weeks after you went home.
Yeah.
And I was, you know, I was fine because I knew that if anything was to go wrong or if I needed help, I could just walk into a recovery meeting and someone would help me. It's great. You know, it's a worldwide network and...
And you're instantly friends. That's the one thing that I just think is so amazing is you can, and I know you did, you walked into a meeting in Sweden, came out with 30 friends.
Yeah, we went to dinner afterwards.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. And what that is a connection. See, in recovery, I need connection with other people in recovery. That's a really, really important thing. And I also need to give it away to keep it. So that's the other reason I go to meetings as well, is I need to share my experience, strength and hope with other women specifically who may be new, because this was all given to me free, you know, by women who were willing to help me when I needed it the most. And so I have a responsibility to be able to give that back.
Yeah. And, you know, I know how much of an intelligent, caring soul that you are. And I don't know if an apology is due, but I never, ever for 1 second thought you were an alcoholic.
I was good at hiding it.
Not for a second.
Yeah. So I was really good at hiding it. Like I had a great mask. You know, from the outside looking in on my life, well, you saw it from the outside looking in on my life. You know, I had the kids at home, lived out on property with my partner at the time. I'd just written a book before I come into recovery. I was working a couple of jobs.
Yes.
So things from the outside looking in were great.
You were functioning. You were high functioning.
I was. But for me, as I said, I didn't lose a lot of material things. But inside, I was dead.
Would you agree to me saying one thing I remember that I should have said but never did? One instance that happened?
Mm.
We can edit that out if you don't like
No.
this. But I remember when the kids were little, we had kids a similar age, and I came around for morning tea, and the kids could have a little play on the floor. They were babies. And it would have been 10:30. And you said, "Oh, do you want a red wine?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Nah, all good, thanks." And then you had one. But to me, it didn't concern me because I obviously was used to it. And
look, as I said, like my experiences is that my alcoholism and the way that it affected my life was very much an internal thing. I hated who I was, Belinda. I hated me. You have no idea. Like, I could not look myself in the mirror. I thought I was the worst mum, the worst daughter, the worst friend. The only reason that I didn't take my life or was thought is because I didn't have a life of my own. I had kids, so I knew I couldn't do that. But I hated who I was. I couldn't stand it.
whereas
And it was all internal for me. But I had a really great mask that looked like everything was okay.
you're functioning,
Barely.
I have had nothing but respect for you, and I've had no inkling throughout our whole relationship, which is, we won't give our ages away. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, okay, we can. So Bonita's older than me by 3 days. But I've known you since I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
And never once would I have thought you felt like that about yourself, because I thought the way that I feel about you and that all of our friends feel about you should have reflected, and you should have received that. And I thought you should have felt like this amazing person that we know you to be, but the fact that you didn't feel that way.
I do now.
Good.
I do now, and it's taken me a lot of years. Like recovery, like 10 years of recovery. Like recovery's not easy, Belle. Like,
Do you know I used to test you?
did you?
No, I didn't, but it was kind of like in my head I did. So Bonita and I used to go out dancing all the time, remember?
Yeah.
And we loved it. I loved dancing with you. And I think that was the saddest thing for me is, am I ever going to be able to dance with her again? And I know that sounds so trivial and so silly. And I haven't even danced forever, so what does it matter? But that was one of the
I
things.
love dancing now.
That was one of the things
Yeah.
that really worried me.
Yeah.
So one time we had dinner with you and I thought, no, I'm going to put it in a place that I know at 10 o'clock the dance floor opens. Because I wanted you to dance with me.
I remember.
Yeah.
And I left.
You did leave.
Yeah.
And I said, I knew she wanted to dance with me.
But what's happened, what happens is like, I know for me is like,
Limits.
I don't care about other people's drinking, but sometimes still now, like I'm out, drunk people are boring, for one, and they repeat themselves.
Yes, and we probably get all maudlin.
Yes. And then also too, like I get to this point where I'm done, you know, and nowadays I don't have to justify it with anybody. I can just go, okay.
You can just
See
do
you
the
later.
whole, I'm just going to the toilet and then leave and then text later. That's what you should do.
I don't need to, Belle,
just go,
you know.
okay.
Yep, I'm going now.
Yep.
You know, it's taken me a long time to get here.
Yep.
It's taken me a long time to feel like that I am this amazing woman who absolutely deserves all of what life's got to give.
The best life.
The best life.
And can I just say as well for listeners, I have not seen a decline in Bonita's personality. So if you've got concerns about your drinking and you wonder, oh, people won't think I'm fun anymore, or people won't, I won't be able to connect. That's not true. We have the same relationship now.
Better.
It's better.
Way better.
Isn't it better?
Way better. Yep.
Oh.
Way better. Because, you know, when I was drinking and stuff, it was either all about me.
Yeah.
How everything affected me, or I would be trying to rescue everybody else so they wouldn't have to look at me. Yeah. Now, you know, like I have this ability now to be able to sit with anybody and just listen.
And it's real. And it's real. And you're right there and you're feeling it and it's in the moment.
And I don't rescue anymore. You'll know, like, you know, would you like my perspective on that?
Yes.
That's my constant question, you know, like I don't give advice anymore. I ask the question, you know, and that's a big shift for me.
So there's definitely no chance you'll become boring because that's not a thing.
When I first came into recovery, that was my biggest fear, that I would become boring.
Yeah.
You know, it really was. But my life was I was either up here or down here.
Yeah.
Either really, really happy and everything was going really, really great.
Yeah.
Or everything was really, really bad.
Yeah.
There was no in between. Nowadays, I have this in between.
You've got an equilibrium.
Oh, it is so much more peaceful and calm. I have this level of serenity and peace now that I can't even describe to you. So even when really, like, just because I'm in recovery doesn't mean I get a golden pass from life. Mm-hmm. I am just like everyone else. I'm a human.
Oh, you work 3 jobs. You've got children. You're a grandmother. I know how much you do and how much stress life brings on everybody due to the eternal busy.
But what I do now have is the ability to live life on life's terms. So what that means is I'm able to deal with anything that pops up. And if I can't deal with it on my own, well, then, you know, I'm very practiced at putting my hand up and asking for help.
So is it a sponsor or is it a friend? Who are you reaching out to?
All different.
Or in a meeting, you'll put your hand up and talk?
No, usually it's like just some trusted friends. But you know what? I get professional help as well. Yeah. I've been seeing a counsellor for like almost 10 years too.
Yes, you have. Yeah.
You know, like it's...
And is that going to be ongoing for you? Is it something that you need? Yes.
Well, look, you go to a doctor when you're physically unwell and to keep physically in check,
Mhm.
right? I go to a counsellor for my emotions.
Wow.
You know, I need that
Mhm.
because I want to grow.
Yeah.
I still, you know, life's a journey and it's an adventure.
Yeah.
And part of the adventure is that we grow. Like I want to be a seeker. I want to seek new things. I want to seek more depth. I want to seek more spirituality.
Experiences.
I want more experiences. But to be able to do that, I need to take the actions.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes I need a hand with taking those actions.
Yeah.
Because the other really good thing about my recovery and where I am now is I know that I don't have to do life on my own anymore. I have amazing friends around me.
Yep.
I have amazing people in recovery. I have amazing people around in my work, you know. I don't have to do it on my own. I always
And
felt that I was always on my own and I
And
don't
I've
need
heard
to.
the way that your children speak about you, and there is such respect and love there. And I know what they went through and their concerns for your recovery. Like everything in them wanted you to stay sober.
Yeah.
And you've done
And
an
and
amazing job.
and this is the other thing too. So the other reason I need to keep my recovery and do my recovery and do everything I need to do and to keep growing is for my kids. Because if they ever need it, when they need it, who knows? You know, alcoholism is a genetic
Yeah.
disease.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can be that picture of a solution.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so in recovery I talk about the fact that we're lighthouses. So I can be a lighthouse. So what that means
A
is,
beacon.
yeah, so I'm grounded. I stand still and I'm grounded. Yet my recovery shines out because I recover out loud, right?
Yeah.
So it's not my job to run around this island and rescue all these boats. I stand there and I shine my recovery. And people who need it or people who want it actually, you know, they get attracted to it. And I
Oh,
mean, that's all I can do.
I've seen you be really strong with people who are struggling, and you don't pander. You are not a panderer. Like you say, they need to want it. They need to ask for it. You are not going to chase them around saying,
I can't rescue anyone.
nope.
I cannot rescue anyone. I cannot take actions for anybody. Like, and, you know, outside of recovery, all of us as human beings, we are responsible for our own actions. Nobody can take any actions for us. That's our responsibility.
Yeah.
I can walk next to somebody and help them and show them, you know, the path that I've walked. I can't do it for them.
No.
You know, so, and nobody can do that for me either. Like, I'm responsible for my recovery, I'm responsible for my life, I'm responsible for me. And that means that, you know, I suit up, show up, and do the next right thing, you know, on a daily basis to the best of my ability. You know, I'm still human and we're all human. We all have shitty days and whatever. However, nowadays I know that if I'm having a rough time, that it's not going to be forever.
Yeah.
And I can give myself that self-compassion and that self-caring that I need, you know, in that
And I've
moment.
seen you write things. So you'll get a big board or a big piece of cardboard and gorgeous colour pens.
I love coloured
Shiny,
pens.
sparkly
Yes.
glitter pens and all this crafty stuff, which you never used to do. So this is definitely new for you, not, well, 10 years.
Yeah.
And you will write a whole board about what you're grateful for. And then, you know, all the things that you want, your dreams. And then you'll list the people. And
I'm a very visual person, yes. So I need to actually see what's going on.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so for me, like, so I journal a lot and I write things out.
Yes, you journal. There's a big one. Yes, you journal daily. Twice daily or once?
Once daily, maybe every couple of days.
Yep.
But I love journaling
Yeah.
because what that does for me is like whatever's going on in my head, I get it out of my head and put it down on paper. All right. And then, and however that looks, like sometimes it's pictures and mind maps, sometimes it's words, but get it all out. All right, kind of just empties my head. Then when I come back and I look at it, it's like reading a book in the third person, like I can look at it and I can read it and I could be in a place of self-pity and write some really crappy stuff that's going on in my head. I'll come back and I look at it and it removes the emotion from it.
Yeah.
And I can go, well, you know what? That's actually not true and that's not true and that's not true.
And you can see the growth and you can see that why was I so worried about that? That actually turned into nothing and it wasn't as big a deal as I felt that it was.
Yeah. And so my journaling for me has also been a really, as I said, it's a growth thing. So I have actual hard physical evidence of the hard work I've put into my recovery.
Yes, you
I can
do.
pick up journals from 6 years ago, 7 years ago. I've got journals from the last 10 years that I can pick up and I can open, and there is hard proof evidence in front of me of how much I've changed, how much I've grown, and how much work I've put in. Because often when we're doing this, and this goes for any, not just in recovery, anybody doing the work on ourselves, we get so into it that it's hard to see the growth. Often other people will see it way before us. But for me, journaling is a very clear indicator and proof for me. Like, I need proof. I need to know that this stuff works. Why would you do it if it doesn't?
Exactly.
Because sometimes it's really hard work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Can I just say thank you so much? Thank you so much for being so open today. I feel like this episode in particular will be a really important one for a lot of people. And I genuinely thank you.
Look, that's fine. Can I just say something before we finished? Is like, with drinking and alcohol, like it's such a big thing in our culture. But it also just to be aware that there's a lot of people out there who actually may feel that they have an issue with alcohol, and there is help around. And no one ever comes into recovery when they are, happy, joyous and free. We all come in at a place where we need some help. And there is a life being sober, like whether you're in a 12-step program or not, even if you just are not drinking, mate, sober life is so good. It is so good. I cannot, it's just, I can't put it into words.
Well, I'm looking at it right now. I've been looking at it for years now.
Yeah.
But you're perfect to me pre, you're perfect to me post, but you're happy post.
Oh, I'm happy.
Life is good.
I love Bonita. Bonita is this amazing woman who walks this earth with grace and love and tolerance and suits up and shows up. That's what's going to be in my gravestone. So you remember that.
I will remember that.
Yeah.
What will you put on mine?
I don't know.
Can you ever
I'd have to
think
think about it. I'll think about it, Belle.
Well, I love you and thank you so much.